Hear this from the beginning of creation. There's been an unseen conflict, a clash between light and darkness, between truth and lies. In the middle of this struggle, some people have been set apart for a sacred mission. But here's the startling truth. Many never even realize it. They drift through life unsure and restless, caught up in a world that worships money, fame, and possessions, all the while neglecting the divine purpose that's been calling them since birth. Now consider this. What if you are one of these chosen ones? What if, all the way back to your childhood, God was showing you glimpses of your purpose, but you didn't understand the signs? What if every trial, every victory, and every lonely moment was part of a bigger plan? The world shouts that success is about having lots of money and material abundance, claiming you're nothing if you're not rich. But God's ways are infinitely higher, and His idea of real abundance is not just about wealth. It's about destiny, calling, and the difference you're meant to make on this earth. Look around you. People scramble for money, thinking it will bring them joy, but they're still unfulfilled. They chase after fancy living, hoping for security, yet fear losing it all. But when God sets someone apart, when His call rests on your life, no treasure on earth can match the power and peace of walking in His will. Have you ever felt like you don't belong? As if you never quite fit in with the world's system? Have struggles chased you since you were young? That's not by chance. Countless heroes in the Bible, those who shaped history, were chosen from birth. But to walk in that calling, each had to recognize the signs, accept their purpose, and step into it by faith. Today I invite you to discover something that may forever shift your life. You'll see the clues God's been showing you since you were little. Clues that you're not ordinary, that you were separated for a higher mission. But before we dig deeper, don't let this moment slip away. Subscribe to this channel and enable notifications, because these revelations are rare. Most people live their whole lives without uncovering them. Once you grasp these truths, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Even before you were born, God had a plan. You were chosen from your mother's womb. I'm asking you to do something important right now. If you're here, it's because you value God's love and believe in the power of His word to transform. So speak these words in the comments. I trust that God will give me victory to overcome every obstacle. As you declare this, you align yourself with His promises, and I promise to acknowledge every comment with a heart, showing that we stand in this truth together. Perhaps you've noticed certain people who, even as children, seem to radiate a special sense of direction and calling. Scripture explains it clearly. God knew you before you were formed. In Jeremiah 1:5, the Lord tells the prophet, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That principle doesn't just apply to Jeremiah. It's a universal reality for anyone whom God has called. Look at Moses. From the start, his life was under threat. Pharaoh ordered that every Hebrew baby boy be killed, yet God intervened. Moses ended up floating down a river in a basket and was miraculously brought into the very palace that aimed to end his life. He grew up in abundance and privilege, but deep within he was drawn to a higher purpose, freeing God's people from oppression. Why is it that those God chooses often face serious troubles long before they even begin their mission? It's because the enemy recognizes destiny, sometimes before the person does. He'll attempt to crush you before you realize who you truly are. If you've battled rejection, hardship, or threats that seem designed to tear you down, know this: it was never just about you. It was about the call placed on your life. Think of Jesus. Before he even spoke, King Herod tried to kill him by massacring young children. Darkness always tries to destroy light before it can fully shine. But what the enemy means for evil, God uses for growth. No amount of cash or luxury on earth can compare to staying in the center of God's design for your life. The world may admire riches, but a wealthy man without purpose is still empty. That explains why so many who appear to have it all still feel broken inside. Without God's calling, without understanding why you exist, nothing really satisfies. True wealth isn't purely financial. It's knowing you're chosen for something bigger. You've sensed it in those times you felt different, in your struggles. In those moments you realized there was more to life than what meets the eye. Many ignore these signs. They let society define their worth by money, status, and showy living. But the chosen ones are summoned to a deeper legacy. Their inheritance goes beyond the earthly and reaches into the eternal. So pause and look at your life. Have there been instances where God shielded you, guided you, or gave you a passion that set you apart? If yes, that's not random. And if you've ever felt uneasy with the world's values, I want you to know that we'll uncover even more of this truth as we go on. Let me ask, does this stir something inside you? Have you felt like you were meant for more, but couldn't quite pin it down? If so, share in the comments, and let's keep moving. We'll talk about the signs God gives us in childhood, because when we're young, we haven't yet been shaped by doubt or taught to shut out what our souls know. Childhood is often the stage where God first drops clues about the destiny He has for us. But the sad truth is, most people miss these signals. They shrug them off as silly coincidences or just children's daydreams. Yet in God's plan, nothing is meaningless. Every detail, every early longing, every stirring in your heart serves a purpose. Throughout Scripture, we see future leaders show signs of greatness as kids, but many around them didn't notice or refused to believe. Think about Joseph. He was a boy who had vivid dreams announcing his future leadership, but his brothers were jealous and rejected him, and even his father scolded him. Those dreams weren't random fantasies. They were direct evidence of the unique call God had placed on his life. So let's be honest. How often do we dismiss the traits that set us apart? Maybe you were drawn to spiritual things while everyone else chased money. Maybe your heart was full of compassion when those around you only cared about luxuries. Maybe you had insights that surpassed your age. If you ever felt like a stranger in this world, that's because the chosen rarely feel at home in a place that doesn't reflect their true kingdom. Look at young Samuel. He literally heard God calling his name and thought it was the priest, Eli. It wasn't until Eli sensed what was happening that Samuel realized it was the Lord speaking to him. How many of us spend our lives hearing that same call, but never realize it's God talking? He's been calling you. The real question is whether you've been listening. Sometimes God shows your calling through an unusual depth of wisdom at a young age. Take Solomon. He had an insight beyond his years because his heart lined up with God's purpose. Others, like David, showed courage that went beyond human logic. While men saw only a shepherd boy, God saw a king. This world measures success by money and fame, but God looks at the heart, obedience, and willingness to fulfill His plan. The world exalts those who stack up fortunes, but God lifts up those who build lasting legacies. Look back at your own childhood. Did you sense you were set apart? Did you crave things that made little sense to others? Maybe you wanted to help people while your peers chased their own desires. Maybe you hated injustice and felt a fire in your soul to change it. Or maybe you had skills that nobody else understood. Those were not accidents. When God marks a person, He starts shaping them early. But our society trains us to ignore those godly nudges, telling us to focus on money and social rank instead. Yet no amount of wealth can buy real purpose, and no comfort can replace a divine mission. Think about the turning points in your life that hinted there was something more. Now, in light of this message, do they make sense? Once you spot these signs, you can't pretend you didn't see them. The truth is, the enemy tries to block the chosen ones right from the start. Do you ever wonder why some people sail through life easily, while others fight battle after battle from a young age? It's because they're marked. An unseen hand is trying to keep them from rising. This has always been the tactic of darkness, to strike before the chosen realize their destiny. Remember Moses? Before he could talk, Pharaoh was killing Hebrew baby boys, determined to find and destroy the deliverer. Or Jesus, before his ministry began, Herod slaughtered innocent children. Darkness wanted to extinguish the light from the beginning. It happens again and again. Those God sets apart endure hardships and setbacks that seem way too heavy for their age. If you've been fighting battles since childhood, unfair trials, loneliness, or obstacles that don't make sense, know this: the enemy only attacks what scares him. He doesn't bother those who live just for themselves, chasing money and possessions. He aims for the ones who will disrupt his agenda, those anointed to bring light into a dark world. A lot of people ask why their lives have been so tough when they haven't done anything to deserve it. But your struggles can be the very evidence that you're called. The world might say hardship equals failure, but in God's kingdom, the biggest battles often come to those with the highest purpose. Your trials aren't about your present. They're about what you're destined to do. Look at Joseph, Daniel, and Esther. Each was tested and went through pain before stepping into their mission. So think about your own story. Why did you face rejections, betrayals, or painful experiences that others around you never did? Maybe you felt overlooked in your own home, or you were betrayed by people you trusted, yet something inside wouldn't let you quit. That's the mark of the chosen. Here's the enemy's plan. If he can persuade you that you're worthless, just another person struggling for money in a harsh world, you'll never rise to your true calling. If he can tie your worth to material things alone, you won't chase after God's destiny for you. But those who see the truth become unstoppable. They know real treasure isn't in bank accounts, it's in God's purpose. And they understand that tough times don't mean defeat. Those trials are preparing them for something greater. So if you feel your life has been under siege, if you wonder why you've never had it easy, while others seem to stroll through life, don't give up. Those conflicts were designed to form you, not break you. They're training you for what's next. And if you feel the pressure right now, take heart. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. If this message resonates with you, if it helps you see that your hardships had a purpose, go ahead and like this video. It helps get this word out to more people who need it. But it's also your declaration that you believe your struggles are setting you up for God's victory. Your story is just unfolding. The final chapter hasn't been written yet. Now we come to how the chosen are developed, how God shapes them through trials. Every chosen person eventually comes to a point where they ask, why so many battles? Why do I feel so different? Why are my God-given dreams always met with resistance? The simple answer is preparation. God doesn't send untested soldiers into war, nor does he promote leaders who haven't learned perseverance. While the world sees hardship as failure, God sees it as training. Look again at Joseph. He dreamed of greatness but got thrown into slavery and prison. On the surface, it looked tragic. But beneath the surface, God was preparing him for the palace. David was anointed king as a boy, but spent years running for his life before he wore the crown. Even Moses wasn't sent to free Israel immediately. He spent 40 years in the desert, stripped of power and pride, so he'd learn absolute dependence on God. Trials are not meant to destroy you. They're meant to grow you. But here's the mistake many make. They assume suffering means they're not chosen. In truth, the presence of fierce opposition is often proof that you are. The enemy won't waste energy on someone who poses no threat, and God won't allow pain without a deeper plan. Think about it. If God gave you your entire inheritance right away, would you know how to handle it? If Joseph had gone straight to ruling without the lessons from prison, would he have had the wisdom to lead a nation? If David had jumped to the throne without facing giants, would he have had the heart to shepherd a kingdom? The process is essential. Many chosen ones stumble here. They watch others build earthly empires, amassing fortunes with little effort, and they start to question God. They forget God's definition of success doesn't match the world's. Wealth is fleeting. Luxury can vanish overnight, but purpose, that lasts into eternity. Sometimes God even withholds riches, knowing that without a grounded purpose, wealth can corrupt. History is filled with people who rose to fame too fast and fell just as quickly. God doesn't just prepare you to rise, He prepares you to stay standing when you get there. If you're in a season of confusion, of waiting, of pain, it's not punishment, it's training. Reflect on your journey. Do you think all your trials and tears were random? Not at all. Every rejection, every betrayal, every challenge was molding you, teaching you, and giving you strength. When your time comes to walk fully in God's plan, you won't just survive, you'll thrive. And the amazing part? It'll be worth every tear and every battle. God plants gifts in us early on, and there's a reason for each one. They're like small signs of your destiny, but many never recognize these gifts, or they misuse them in ways God never intended, often chasing the world's approval. From birth, these gifts are there, but we're taught to ignore them or focus on status, wealth, or success as the world defines it. Yet every gift God gives is for His glory and purpose. Look at Samuel. He could hear God's voice as a child, a gift he didn't learn from anyone else. Look at Solomon. He grasped that wisdom was more precious than wealth. When God asked him, "What do you want?" he asked for understanding. His heart was so aligned with God that the Lord gave him wisdom and wealth, both. Here's what matters. Gifts only fulfill you when you use them for God. Some people are amazingly talented, but they pour their gifts into selfish ambitions, building earthly kingdoms alone. Their influence serves personal gain, not the greater good. They might get rich, but they remain unfulfilled. Money isn't the ultimate goal. Living in divine purpose is. No amount of money can satisfy a heart that's meant for God's mission. How many have climbed the ladder of success only to find emptiness at the top? Without God, even the biggest trophies mean nothing. The question is, how are you using your gifts? Are they tools for God's kingdom or just for your own profit? Maybe you're a natural leader, or you inspire people easily. Maybe you have a knack for seeing solutions no one else sees, or a heart for helping the hurting. None of that is random. God gave you these abilities for a reason. Fulfillment comes when you embrace that purpose, not when you trade it for worldly praise. In the end, when all the luxury and show are gone, only one thing remains. Did you honor God with what He placed inside you? There's a point in every chosen life when the calling becomes crystal clear, when you realize your whole journey, every triumph and heartbreak, has prepared you for something bigger. Some come to this realization after a major life event. Others experience it gradually, like a sunrise in their soul. But for each chosen person, there's a defining moment. Do you embrace who God made you to be, or do you run from it? Look at Moses. He was raised in the glitz of Pharaoh's house, but something stirred inside him that wealth couldn't silence. He had to choose, stay cozy in luxury or launch into his God-given mission. Look at Esther. She lived in a palace and had riches beyond measure. But when her people were threatened, she had to decide, remain quiet and safe or risk it all for her destiny. Every chosen person faces this kind of crossroad. Maybe you've felt that tension, that the life you're living isn't the one God truly has for you. Maybe you tried to fit in and chase the world's riches, but deep down, you knew you were made for more. That's the point where people either answer God's call or bury it. And here's the thing, God won't force you to accept your calling. He'll guide you, show you, and nudge you, but He leaves the choice with you. Some people run from it for years out of fear of leaving comfort behind. But what they don't realize is that when you say yes to God, everything else finds its right place. We live in a culture that says success comes from hustling day and night to amass fortune. But in God's realm, true success is about being in line with His plan. Once you say yes, He provides and things finally begin to make sense. Countless souls chase empty dreams because they're afraid to do what God actually designed them for. Yet if you're still here, it's no coincidence. God is speaking to you, showing you that your entire path has been building towards something extraordinary. So here's the straightforward question. Will you answer God's call? Because the moment you do, nothing stays the same. And if you know someone who feels aimless or uncertain about their life, share this message. Sometimes all it takes is a single word to awaken someone to their God-given path. When the chosen individual steps into their role, you'll see how everything was leading to that very moment. Each struggle, each lesson, each victory was preparation for what's next. Eventually, you reach a point where staying hidden in the background is no longer possible. You realize you can't keep living like you're ordinary. The reality of your calling becomes too strong to ignore. Think of Jesus. He spent 30 years in private, patiently waiting for the appointed time. But when John the Baptist declared, "Behold the Lamb of God," he stepped forward without hesitation, fully aware of the cost. Think of David. Though anointed as a boy, it was that face-off with Goliath that changed everything. The years he spent in obscurity, running and hiding, molded him for that decisive moment to stand up and lead. Every chosen one will hit a defining moment, a moment when you can't stay silent or pretend to be someone else any longer. Sometimes this moment is sudden, other times it creeps up on you, but it always comes. And once you step into your purpose, the enemy won't just give up. He intensifies his attacks on those who are ready to do real damage to darkness. This explains why attacks can increase when you finally surrender to God's plan. Purpose brings responsibility. Moses faced backlash when he led. Joseph endured unimaginable trials before reigning. Esther risked everything to save her people. The difference between the chosen and everyone else is that the chosen refuse to quit. They know that the cost of obedience is so much less than the regret of disobedience. It's not a question anymore of whether you're chosen. You've already seen the signs. What matters is what you'll do now that you know. Will you live like your life is ordinary, or step up and walk in the purpose for which you were made? The time is coming, and when it does, those who truly belong to God won't be able to stay hidden. They will stand, they will lead, and they will shape the world around them. If these words have stirred your spirit, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next awakening message. Turn on notifications because these messages are here to equip you for the journey. And if you've been touched by what you've heard, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to wake up to their calling. You never know whose life will be changed. Before you go, there's another message prepared to deepen all you've learned. Click on the video that appears on your screen and keep pursuing this path of discovery. Because your calling isn't something far away, it begins right now.